Good afternoon. 506 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can do it too. 888-630-9625. 888-630-WMAL. Well, that took no time at all. The media are washing their hands completely of the stench of the Joe Biden presidency. What? Pardon Hunter? Oh, we knew it was coming.
I can't believe any of y'all ever believed he wasn't going to pardon Hunter Biden. The lead starts right now.
What would lead you to that conclusion, said Jake Tapper, whose network has dutifully carried water for the Biden White House endlessly. Even CNN's legal analyst Ellie Honig had this to say.
This pardon will tarnish Joe Biden's legacy. I mean, Joe Biden, let's be clear here, he lied to us for a long time. He said categorically, I will not pardon my son. He said, I will take it off the table. And he couched it in very high-minded terminology. I respect the Justice Department. I respect the jury's verdict. Well, now he's gone back on that. I don't know how many people actually believed him. I certainly didn't.
What an amazing sight as all those guys pretend that they work for a real news organization like the New York Post. Joining me from the Post, Miranda Devine is here. She's also the author of The Big Guy, How a President and His Son Sold Out America. Miranda, great to have you back with us.
Thanks for having me, Vince.
It is amazing. Everybody is acting like they're you today, Miranda. Oh, I knew this was coming. I knew it was going to be like this. I don't remember that at all, actually.
No, I in fact, over Thanksgiving, I had quite a vigorous discussion with a couple of people who thought, that Joe wouldn't do it. And I'm like, why? Well, because he said he wouldn't. And I said, but he lies all the time about everything. I mean, he lied at the beginning of his presidency that he had nothing to do with his son Hunter's overseas business dealings, and people believed him then. Yes. I don't know why they believe him ever.
2014 is the starting date on the most expansive pardon in American history. 2014, and right now the Justice Department has not alleged any crimes that occurred in 2014. So, what was the pardon about for that year?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is just unprecedented that you would have a pardon that goes back 11 years. It's not even 10 years, it's 11. And the reason for that is because 2014 was a very important year in the Biden influence peddling scheme. That was the year of the Maidan Revolution in February. And then in April, Hunter Biden joins the board of the corrupt Ukrainian energy company Burisma that then pays him $1 million a year. Subsequently, we have the following year, we have the new prosecutor general, Victor Shokin, is appointed. He starts to investigate Burisma, and lo and behold, Joe ends up telling the president of Ukraine, you have to fire that pesky prosecutor or I'm going to withhold $1 billion in U.S. aid. And the president fires the prosecutor, the next prosecutor that Joe Biden loves and says is a solid guy. He ends up closing the investigation, and Burisma and its owner get off scot-free, just like Hunter Biden. So this is the way they roll, and that's why this pardon for Hunter that goes back 11 years is as much about protecting Joe as it is about protecting his son.
To what extent is it about, in your view, protecting something even bigger, though? I was just going over all of the puzzling times that the CIA has appeared in all of this. I noticed you mentioned the Maidan Revolution in February of 2014. There's quite a few people who believe that that was a CIA-backed revolution so that we could get an American-controlled Ukrainian government in place. And then we look at all of these events where the CIA is involved in drafting the 51 intelligence officials letter, or the CIA blocked probes into Hunter Biden's funder, Kevin Morris, which is kind of interesting that the CIA would get involved in that. How big could this be?
Sorry, I'm on another call. Can we? I'm on another radio thing. Can we do this later?
Are you talking to me or someone else? Oh, she's speaking. I don't know who she's speaking to.
Hi, here I am.
Oh, hey there. Are you?
Hi.
Can you stay with us, Miranda?
Yes, I can, of course.
Okay. I was just asking, do you think that there's any connection to the CIA with the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden family saga in Ukraine?
Well, certainly appears that way because remember when there was that dirty 51 letter before the 2020 election from the 51 former intelligence officials falsely claiming that Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian disinformation operation.
Yes.
That was, most of them, about 42 of them, were CIA or former CIA. But that letter was actually given the green light by Gina Haspel, who was then the CIA director. So effectively, censoring our story and pretending it was Russian disinformation 3 weeks before the election was a CIA sort of election interference operation.
Yes. So I guess that gets kind of the point of what does that mean for the rest of us? Because what it looks like is the CIA has some inherent interests going on with the Biden family's business arrangements, or at the very least, what's going on in Ukraine, and that may explain why so much of this keeps being blacked out for the American people.
Absolutely. And, we also had the CIA, apparently, according to the IRS whistleblowers, the CIA blocked them from interviewing a very important witness, Kevin Morris, who was the sugar brother for Hunter Biden, the Hollywood lawyer who's funded a lot of his lifestyle and paid off his tax debts.
Yeah. So I'll just table that for now. I think that's important, and I want to keep coming back to that on the show. But Hunter Biden is not the only Biden family member who has been involved in the family's influence peddling operations. Jim Biden, you and I have discussed that a whole bunch, has come up frequently. Do you anticipate any sort of blanket pardon for Jim, or is he still fair game to investigate?
Oh, I'm sure that will happen. I think the reason that Joe Biden gave this pardon to Hunter now, which is quite early in the scheme of things for a president in their sort of lame duck period, was because the sentencing for his gun charges or gun conviction is coming up in 11 days, and 4 days after that or 5 days after that is the tax fraud sentencing. So I think he wanted to get out ahead of that, but he has ample time to pardon a whole lot of other people. And that would include his younger brother, Jim Biden, who was very much involved in some of the China deals that Hunter was doing, but also is reportedly under investigation himself. So a pardon would just kill that investigation stone dead.
What do you think the internal dynamics are for the Biden family on this? I saw CNN's Jeff Zeleny today saying that it was actually Dr. Jill, who was pushing for this pardon to occur and apparently made it happen. Do you think it's Jill who's the driving force behind all of this?
No, I don't buy that at all. This is all about constructing a new narrative that says that Joe Biden was honest to his word and he had no intention of pardoning Hunter. And so when he said all those things, he wasn't lying. When he said a dozen times that he would never pardon Hunter, but he had a change of heart over the Thanksgiving holiday, and his family convinced him that it would be too hard for Hunter to go to jail, and so he relented. I mean, it's so bogus, and it is the final insult and slap in the face to the American people who he has lied to consistently. At least people should understand, finally, that this man lies, that your president has lied his way into office. He's lied for 50 years, and he's lying his way out of it. Don't fall for yet another hoax.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and classic sexism, by the way, blaming his wife for his own decisions.
Yes.
And then one other piece here is the fact that in the statement that the White House released yesterday that had Joe Biden's name on it, they claimed that Hunter Biden was being subjected to a political persecution, that he was being selectively prosecuted because he's a Biden. And I'm sitting here wondering, well, how the hell does that work? Unless, of course, it's just yet another lie.
Well, I mean, yes, obviously, he pretends that his son was singled out and given, unfair treatment because he was his father's son. He was singled out, but he was given unfair treatment the other way. He was given favorable treatment by the Department of Justice because he was Joe Biden's son. And we know that from those valiant IRS agents, Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler, who came forward to blow the whistle to Congress and to say all the ways that their investigation over 5 years into Hunter Biden was obstructed and slow-walked and interfered with. That included, what I just mentioned about the CIA, but also they were any evidence trail that led to Joe Biden, they were immediately blocked. They were not able to do any of the normal things like get search warrants for a cottage on Joe Biden's property that Hunter had been living in, or geolocate his phone, etc. Just the normal things that you would do, they were not allowed to do. The prosecutors, the DOJ, stood in their way every step of the way. And so the treatment that Hunter Biden got was favourable. I'm sorry, I have to go because I've got this other interview that I promised to do.
Okay, fair enough. Miranda, always nice to talk to you. Thank you, Miranda.
You too.
There
Bye-bye.
she is. Miranda Devine with the New York Post. Turns out a very busy woman, in case you were wondering. She wrote the book, The Big Guy, How a President and His Son Sold Out America. It just came out the end of September. Might be due for a quick update in light of the pardon that Joe just delivered to his son. Let's see. Mike is calling in from Sunshine now on line 1. Hello, Mike. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Thanks for taking my call. You kind of stole some of my thunder. I was going to predict that the pardons that are coming are Jim Biden for sure. I think that Jim Biden's wife also touched that money, that $40,000. Remember, they read that into the record, that $40,000 that ended up in the big guy's bank account.
Yeah.
So Jim Biden's wife. Also, his last day in office, I would not be surprised if Joe Biden pardoned himself.
A blanket pardon for himself. On that subject, it's kind of interesting you bring that up. I was reading this morning, as I so often do, there's a Harvard professor by the name of Jack Goldsmith. He's at Harvard Law. And he says that because of the Supreme Court decision this year involving President Trump and presidential immunity, that Biden is, as of this weekend, he's technically becoming the very first beneficiary of that Supreme Court decision. Because by virtue of issuing this pardon, they can't actually investigate him or accuse him of some sort of corrupt action by use of the pardon, because the pardon power is given to the president of the United States and he can use it. And here's what Jack Goldsmith says here. He says, whether or not there was criminality, there might have been an investigation by the incoming Trump administration. That is off the table for now, as is Hunter's Fifth Amendment claim before congressional investigators. Also off the table is any Trump administration investigation of Biden for issuing the pardon to obstruct justice on a theory of obstruction akin to the ones Mueller was floating, though not in the pardon context, in Volume 2 of his report. Bob Bauer, an attorney, and I explained he cites his own report, why a president could theoretically be prosecuted for using a pardon to obstruct justice. We also explain why such a prosecution would not necessarily be precluded by the Article 2 pardon power, which makes the pardon absolute for the beneficiary of the pardon, but does not afford the president, as the grantor, immunity from commission of crimes in connection with the granting of the pardon. However, Biden is protected by the Supreme Court's July immunity decision from criminal investigation for possible obstruction of justice by the incoming Trump administration. The court said that a pardon was a conclusive and preclusive presidential power, and that the president's exercise of such a power is broadly immune from criminalization, investigation, or prosecution by a subsequent administration. The court, in reaching this conclusion, expressed worry, quote, about an executive branch that cannibalizes itself, with each successive president free to prosecute his predecessors. In other words, Biden is the first beneficiary of Trump v. U.S. You remember when the decision came down and we were talking about how, no, you can't go after Trump for official acts as president of the United States? I think it was the very day that the decision came out. I said right here on this program, Joe Biden should be thanking his lucky stars about this decision. Because that means the actions he takes as president of the United States, which are far more suspicious than anything Donald Trump has ever been accused of, far more credible than anything Trump has been accused of, have now been given a very important constitutional bit of immunity that Biden is going to really benefit from in the end if he's taking corrupt actions all over the place as president of the United States. So here you go. Biden is the beneficiary of Donald Trump's case before the United States Supreme Court, according to the Harvard law professor, at least. All right, let's take a call. I've got Ed calling in from Hagerstown right now on line 3. Ed, you're on the Vince Coglianese Show. Hello, sir.
Vincent, how are you, my friend?
I'm so good, Ed.
I think that we're overlooking the fact here that it sure appears that Joe Biden just gave us a huge present. What I mean by that is that all he really had to do, we all expected him to pardon his son.
Yeah.
And probably the rest of his family, whatever. But the timing of this has actually taken and just eroded any trust that people have in the government, in the media. Oh, the media is just wonderful. They already, if you consider all the people that were adherents to the Biden-Harris, the whole smear, if you think of them like, prisoners, I guess, and they have now escaped, and they're so like the Stockholm,
little Stockholm syndrome. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. People are like hoping that there's that no, I really miss my captors.
Yeah.
And now we've squished it. So I think
you know what? Honestly, I like that. I like that assessment. Although I will say one thing I don't like about it is it makes it seem like they didn't have agency, that they were merely victims. I think they're perpetrators. It's not Stockholm syndrome. These guys were right there with Biden carrying his water. They knew they were lying to us. And it's really funny. Some of it's being thrown in their faces today. Dan Goldman today. Wait until you hear what happened to him. He was on television, and they played a clip of him saying, there's no way Joe Biden's going to pardon his son, to his face. It's amazing. It's next. Well, good afternoon to you. It's 5:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. The Democrats are processing the fact that Joe Biden is a big fat liar. I don't know if how is this recent news for them? They just discovered, what? No. Well, his political utility is gone, so they don't have to pretend quite as much anymore. Dan Goldman, the Levi Strauss heir, was on television today, the demented congressman from New York, and they confronted him on CNN with footage of himself saying recently that there's no way Joe Biden is going to pardon Hunter. So here's what that sounded like.
In July of 2023, just after that plea deal fell through, this is what you said. I want to watch.
Do you think a pardon for his son would be a mistake?
Yes, and I don't think there's any chance that President Biden is going to do that, unlike his predecessor, who pardoned all of his friends and anyone who had any access to him. And I think you see that in this case, where he kept on, and Merrick Garland kept on, a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney to investigate the president's son. If there is not an indication of the independence of the Department of Justice beyond that, I don't know what we could look for.
What does that feel like, watching yourself back then, reassuring people that Biden was not going to issue a pardon for his son?
Yeah, and I think that if that plea agreement and that plea deal had gone through, there would be no pardon.
What?
That was a satisfactory outcome.
It already fallen through.
That only was. Sorry?
When you reacted, this was when the deal had fallen through. And I hear what you're saying.
What is that? What is that? Yeah, if only a sweetheart plea deal had gone through, Joe wouldn't have to issue a pardon. What a scumbag that guy is. And you know what's crazy? Which, like, so disgusting and obviously not shocking, but appalling. He'll be on TV a couple weeks from now. They're going to treat him totally seriously. Like the guy's the burning bush. He tells the truth all the time. He lied to their faces. And they're going to say, thank you, sir. May I have another? That's the way they operate. These guys get, big dollar jobs. What's Corinne going to do after she leaves? You think she's going to get a job in cable? Probably. You think she's going to be insightful in her political analysis? No. But that's the way that works. That revolving door of mediocrity and dishonesty. Meanwhile, people work for the Trump administration. What happened to them? They get prosecuted. They get raids on their homes. Just working with Trump at all. Got Roger Stone SWAT boats outside of his house, him and his poor wife. Teams of police showing up armed to arrest octogenarians. Yeah. Peter Navarro, leg shackles at the airport. That's what happens. Dan Goldman and Corinne get to keep lying to you, and they get paid handsomely for it. Different standards. Just completely different standards. Let us see here. Oh, I had a call standing by that I wanted to get to. It just fell off, but that's okay. The call was essentially Joe Biden should pardon the January 6ers. That's what he should be up to right now. And I totally 100% agree. Joe Biden should pardon every single person who's been subjected to persecution by Joe Biden. And in fact, that pardon should come with an apology. Biden should apologize. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done that to you. It was a total miscarriage of justice, totally un-American. Really shouldn't have done that to you. None of that's going to happen at all. You obviously know this. But President Trump also noticed this. President Trump posted about the pardon from Biden and said that he should be pardoning the January 6ers as well, actually. Let me see here. So Trump on Truth Social posted the following last night. Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the J6 hostages who have now been imprisoned for years? Such an abuse and miscarriage of justice! Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. And, I was thinking about this. If you go and you look at President Biden's statement on why he's issuing this pardon for Hunter, in a lot of ways, it's sort of plug and play. If Donald Trump wanted to, if President Trump wanted to, he could take the entire statement that Joe Biden's White House put out, remove the name Hunter Biden, and just put in January 6 hostages. Today, I signed a pardon for the January 6 hostages. Wouldn't that be great? And then he could go on to talk about the charges in these cases only came about after my political opponents instigated them to attack these people and oppose my election. This is all. Trump could take the language from the Hunter Biden pardon statement and just flip it 180 degrees and say, hey, January 6ers, you're out, baby. And he could do it on day one. And now the groundwork is completely laid for this. President Trump has already indicated he intends to issue pardons for most, if not all, of the people who've been subjected to these persecutions from January 6, 2021. The left has been whining about it, but the leader of their party, Joe Biden, just came out and offered this blanket pardon and said it's because of this political prosecution. It's over the top. It's too much. Yes, he committed some crimes, but honestly, nobody else gets treated this way. Nobody else. He's only being targeted because of politics. That's why. And so if that's the rationale that the leading Democrat wants to advance, Donald Trump can happily accept it as the rationale for why he's banishing all of these January 6 charges and releasing the hostages. Now. So, boy, in the end, do you ever get the feeling, obviously Biden's covering up for his own crime family, but aren't you amazed in some ways by all of the moments that Joe Biden intervened this year in such a way that helped Trump either get elected or start his presidency? Isn't that amazing to you? Like Joe Biden donned a MAGA hat in the heat of the election. He put a MAGA hat on in the middle of the election. And he thought it was playful. It was fun. Imagine what Kamala Harris's campaign was thinking when Joe Biden's putting MAGA hats on. Kamala Harris would launch a campaign event. She'd be somewhere in the country doing a rally, a totally artificial rally where they bust in people to pretend like they're enthusiastic about her. She was spending millions of dollars. She was paying Oprah and all sorts of performers to appear on stage. They kept teasing that Beyonce would do something big for the campaign. You remember all that? And then finally she did show up at a rally. She didn't perform, and people stormed out in fury. They thought she was going to perform. I was here for a Beyonce concert. I wasn't paid enough for that, sweetheart. She just stood up on stage and said, I love Kamala. She's the greatest thing that ever happened. And then she walked off stage, and people were disappointed. And so she would be doing these events, and what was Biden doing? They would schedule Biden events at the same moment that she was live. Biden was doing statements from the White House, like on stupid crap that didn't even need to be said. And he was out doing public events at the very moments that Kamala was out there trying to campaign to become the next president of the United States. Amazing. Also, I want to give an honorary mention to Bill Clinton, who came out and straight up said that Laken Riley was killed because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Hat tip to Bill Clinton for that statement. He made that in Georgia during the campaign. Oh, and Obama for saying that black men need to get in line and vote for Kamala. Thanks, Obama. Way to go. Excellent work there. But Joe Biden, at each step of the process, he keeps coming out and he's like, yeah, let's go, Brandon. I agree, he says. Amazing. And now here he is. Here he is saying that, if you target someone using the law, using the Justice Department for political reasons, boy, even if they did do something wrong, they don't deserve that. They don't deserve that kind of treatment. No. They deserve a pardon. Good. We'll do it for all the January 6th prisoners. That's perfect. Because there is no reason that you should still be arresting people to this very day for a protest on January 6, 2021. The only reason that they made this, and this is not a mistake, the largest investigation and prosecutions in the history of the FBI and the United States Department of Justice. The reason this is the single biggest event of that nature is because they're being targeted because they represent and support the other side. They are the political opponents who need to be silenced. And that's what's been happening, and they deserve pardons for that. And so President Trump indicating yet again that that's his plan. That's what he's going to do. All right, let me see. I've got Keith calling in from Alexandria, now line 2. Hello, Keith. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hello, Vince. How are you?
I'm good, Keith. What's on your mind?
Well, it's telling the caller that I don't really feel that the letter that you've been referencing from using quotations with my fingers, Joe Biden, is actually from Joe Biden. I'm pretty sure it was written with the assistance or direction of his wife, Jill, and probably a few members of the internal White House cabal, I'll call it, that are running things, because Joe Biden certainly isn't capable of doing that.
No.
Certainly can't read a prompter, and certainly doesn't have the capability of writing a full-page letter with reasonable thought on how to pardon his son, who's guilty of corruption and grifting on a grand scale, including his family. So,
yes, I'm with you 100%. In fact, I think you may have missed it, but I referenced earlier that anytime I mention Joe Biden, and this has been true for the entire duration of his presidency, when you see something from the White House that has Joe Biden's name on it, you begin with the assumption that he had nothing to do with it, that it was written for him, his name was appended to it, and they either used a robot to sign it or they grabbed his hand and they just had an X pushed onto the paper. But you're right about that. I don't for a moment think that Joe Biden wrote this. Although I just want to emphasize that doesn't absolve him of the guilt that he bears for all of the sins of both his presidency and what came before. He owns all of that, despite the fact that he doesn't write all the statements verbatim. That is true. I agree with you on that, Keith. Keith, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Kathy is calling in from Woodbridge now on line 1. Hello, Kathy. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince.
Hey, Kathy.
So earlier you were talking about the Supreme Court case with immunity for the president and how Biden's going to benefit from it.
Yeah.
Well, nothing ever happens to these people, and he's going to be dead before he gets to take advantage of it. But I'm heartened by the fact that Trump can, help people get out, especially the J6ers on day one. I thought it was like at the end, because it's always at the end of the presidency. Anyway, I love you, man. I love all that you do.
Oh, you're sweet.
And I'm a Philly chick, so I kind of got to like you, right?
Oh, why is that? Why do you say that particularly about Philly?
Because people from Philly, we're unique, honey. We're unique.
Oh.
It's a love thing.
Yeah. So wait, but I'm not from Philly, Kathy.
Outside of Philly, I know. Probably Bucks County or something, right?
No, actually, well, I went to college near Allentown, Pennsylvania. I went to a small Catholic school called DeSales University. But I am from the entire East Coast. I grew up in a Marine Corps family, and then I ended up settling in the swamp, and now I'm here.
Well, how did you get to the swamp?
I got to the swamp with Dad. Decades ago, he got stationed here,
okay.
and I came with him, and then I kind of settled in. I got a job years ago, and I never looked back.
Very cool. Well, we're blessed to have you, that's for sure.
Thank you,
And
Kathy.
I know in the darkest days, man, I was praying for you, your family. It was such craziness, and I was like, God, this man has such fortitude. I mean, there were times that you were, this was like, how can this crap be happening? All this, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
It's demonic.
I'm sorry. What are you referencing? You just mean all of the crazy news that we have to deal with every day?
No, I don't have to be close to it. And you guys have to, live it, breathe it every day. This crazy stuff. It drives... I can't watch the news.
I know.
Well, I will say, the TV.
I will say the one good thing, Kathy, that makes it a little easier to bear is that I do have the opportunity. This is like such a privilege for me to be able to do this. I can get it off my chest. I have a place that I can express it, and then we bring in experts, and we get answers, and then we take those answers to other people, and we say, hey, can you do something with this? So I realize sometimes this feeling, I guess, depending on where you are in the process, you get frustrated, and you're like, you don't want to go on Facebook, you don't want to. I don't post. I'm so bad at social media because my view is like if I have something to express, I'm going to express it on my radio show, and Corey, how often do I say this? I got to tend to the social media more. I should do that. I should grow that stuff because it's. That's how everybody gets measured, How many followers does he have? You know what?
That doesn't matter. You connect with people on the radio.
Yeah,
You're talking to us. You're getting mad. You feel good. You don't feel good. You're pissed at this.
Yeah.
You're real. And
Amen.
you're a fighter, dude. God bless you.
Well, God bless you, Kathy. Thank you
right.
very much. I appreciate that call. We'll have to have you call back at some point and tell us what the best cheesesteak place is in Philly, because I know that is a very contentious subject, and we'll get to it another time. All right, big show today. Another big show tomorrow. Congressman Andy Bigg stops by. We talk Biden family corruption, and Congressman Brad Wenstrup is here with the results of their COVID investigation. Will Anthony Fauci be doing some time? We'll see. Stay with us. The great one, Mark Levin, up next.